The Bryan Fire Department is seeking your help when it comes to things like response time and social media usage. We'll tell you how you can help. Plus, for the second straight day, Texas lawmakers cut discussion short in the special legislative session. What was discussed and how this special session may be hitting your pockets.
Had some downpours across the Brazos Valley today. Still seeing some on our Exco Eagle Eye and Bryan College Station. We do expect those rain chances to continue, but I do have some dry days in the forecast. That's coming up, but your 25 news starts right now.
Good evening and thank you for joining us for KRHD News at 6. I'm Hallie Jones. The Bryan Fire Department is developing its strategic plan for the future, and they're asking the public for ideas on how to. KRHD News reporter Hannah King speaks with residents to see how they think the department can better serve the community.
Bryan residents will soon have an opportunity to give input and share feedback to the Bryan Fire Department. Have you ever needed the Bryan Fire Department?
No, we have not.
Sarah Miller, a 20-year Bryan resident, says BFD is doing a great job.
I really don't have any complaints. They're friendly. I would like to see them get more credit for what they do.
The Bryan Fire Department is looking for feedback from residents concerning needs and expectations of their hometown station, something Miller says they already exceed.
As far as what they can do, I think they're doing great.
BFD wants to hear thoughts on how the department engages with the community, response times, and social media usage, just to name a few. An outlet Miller says is good for both the department and the community it serves.
It's a good idea for them to give the community an opportunity to say something, and that way people, if they want to complain, they can go to the source. Or if they have something positive, rather than just posting it and complaining, they can actually maybe have something change.
Improvements for the department, John Blinn, who works in downtown Bryan, says are slim, but if they are requesting feedback, he would recommend more community engagements.
I mean, I feel like they already do a really good job. They work really hard. Maybe just more like community events, you know, kind of getting kids and the youth into being a firefighter. I think we could always do that. And just encourage more people to pursue that as a career choice.
Blinn, like Megan Whitney, say they have witnessed the Bryan Fire Department work, assisting nearby businesses with incidents close to where they work recently, and we're thankful for their quick response.
In my experience, they got here really fast. It never seemed like we were in much danger.
The bartenders and all the employees around here always take care of each other, and as soon as it happened, we definitely wanted to go make sure they were okay. So as soon as it happened, we let them know, and the Bryan Fire Department came and they took care of it super quickly.
Both residents and workers in Bryan know being a firefighter comes with massive responsibilities.
I know it's a hard job, and I appreciate their willingness to be there and to work hard for our city.
They put out fires, but if there's anything else that they do for the community, that'd be super helpful for us as well.
The public input meeting is set for Thursday, July 15th from 6 p.m. until 8 p.m. at Sam Rayburn Middle School in Bryan. Reporting in Bryan, Hannah King, KRHD News.
Taking a look now at the most recent report from the Bryan Fire Department. In 2019, Bryan Fire and EMS responded to over 13,000 calls related to fires and other emergencies. Of those calls, 216 were specific to fires. According to the 2019 report, 15 cases of arson were filed in the Bryan area, and more than 6,500 calls for fire and emergencies were to Bryan homes and residences. Engineers at Texas A&M will soon be working with the Army to conduct research on autonomous vehicles in different environments. Texas A&M Engineering Experiment Station recently received a proposed 5-year, $24 million contract from the Army Research Laboratory. That money is being used to develop virtual proving grounds to test autonomous vehicles in various scenarios. Building and testing these algorithms will help test vehicle capabilities for multiple situations at the same time.
But how good are these algorithms when you put them in these difficult situations that what I call as the military problem, right? Army relevant situations, right? So we want to kind of develop algorithms that enable us to test how well these current state-of-the-art algorithms work.
The research will be done at the Bush Combat Development Complex at Texas A&M Rellis campus. It started out as a conservative wish list from the governor Wednesday, but the first week of the special session ended with mourning with a whimper. Tonight, our Austin Walker is at the Capitol talking to lawmakers about this week's rocky start.
It is day 2 of the special session here at the Texas State Capitol, and out of the 11 hot topics that are on the agenda to be discussed, none of them have been heard on the House or Senate floor, leaving many with questions on why.
Chair here is done. The Senate stands adjourned until 10 a.m. Monday, July 12th.
The House and Senate doors closed up for the weekend, leaving some Texans with more questions than they walked in with early Friday morning.
I'm here, I thought, to watch the House and the Senate talk about HB 3979.
Tristan Chiswick says for 2 days she's been eager to hear discussion between lawmakers.
And the Senate, we sat in there for probably about 45 minutes and nothing got discussed.
Texas Representative James White says special session can move slow, especially with the amount of bills looking to be read.
Because you got to read the bill on the floor first, then you have to send it to committee for a hearing, and then it comes back to the House floor for its second and third reading.
And while the process can be slow moving, Chiswick says she hasn't seen much discussion at all.
It's funny because Abbott brought them back because they didn't finish their job on regular sessions, so they create these special sessions, and there's definitely it's not a let's get it all done and get home to our families. It's definitely more of sitting around and still chit-chatting among themselves.
Representative White says some bills are still being drafted, which could delay the process even more.
This is not abnormal.
As another day goes by, lawmakers and spectators are on the same side of this coin. They both want progress. Coming up next week, we will be hearing more on these bills as they start to be discussed, including Monday we'll hear about the bail bond issue as well as the election reform. Reporting from the Capitol, I'm Austin Walker, 25 News.
And as lawmakers continue to work, they continue to get paid, but that money is coming out of taxpayer pockets. KRHD investigator Dennis Turner shows us the damage and how the special session is designed to minimize it.
Some things here at the Capitol are what they call fixed costs, which means we pay them all the time. Things like keeping the lights on, the housekeeping, and the maintenance, because after all, this place is a tourist attraction. That's why the special session is designed to get the most done in the least time, within the 30-day window.
Things are on a much faster course during the special. Your layout time, the time that in committee, and all of those time frames that are in the Constitution that drive the regular session are all modified for the special session, so
like
things move faster.
It's like going to the HEB and going to the 10 items or less lane.
Okay.
Kind of like that.
Well, and rather than waiting in line at McDonald's, you get to go through the drive-through if you're the only car.
Okay. The Legislative Budget Board says lawmakers get $600 for the month plus $221 per diem. That's spending money per day. But that $221 a day spending money, that adds up. So we have 31 senators and 150 representatives. That's 181 people. Now, if you multiply that by 221, that's 40 grand a day for all of them. Multiply that by the 30 days of the special session, and it comes to a whopping $1,200,030. And who pays that? You're right, we do. So after 2 days of the special session, apparently all lawmakers can agree on is when to knock off work, which is about noontime. People here I talk to say whether lawmakers work 5 minutes or 5 hours, the meter keeps running, and we keep paying. At the Texas State Capitol, Dennis Turner, 25 News.
Now to the latest on COVID-19. The CDC says in-person school should be a priority this fall. Newly released guidance says that schools can remove some protocols based on local conditions. The CDC suggests removing prevention strategies one at a time so it can be closely monitored to see if COVID cases increase. It also says schools need to take steps to promote COVID-19 vaccinations for staff and students over 12. Federal funding for restaurants is coming to an end after running out of money. The program launched in May with $28.6 billion. The White House said that more than 180,000 applications were submitted in the first few days. The New York Times is reporting applicants are now receiving emails saying the Small Business Administration's fund has been overwhelmed by applications and doesn't have the money to meet all of the demand. And Pfizer reports it is working on a booster dose for its coronavirus shot amid reports the vaccine may be less effective over time. This after Israel reported a decrease in the vaccine's efficacy from more than 90% to about 64%. The country's health ministry blamed the drop on the Delta variant. Pfizer says they hope to begin clinical studies in August on a new vaccine specifically targeted against the Delta variant. Wedding bells may not ring the same since the pandemic struck, but brides are finding a new tune. KRHD News reporter Rachel Espaillat spoke with a bride-to-be about her post-pandemic wedding plans.
Most brides have been planning their wedding day since they were a little girl. Over the last 10 years or so, most people have gotten lost in the glitz and glam, but the pandemic has helped refocus on the meaning of marriage. As a wedding planner and a soon-to-be bride, Paige Fuller has watched wedding trends evolve. Many are looking for simpler designs for a more intimate wedding, as most of Fuller's clients still worry about the size of the guest list at this point in the pandemic. If you are unsure, Fuller says it is better to still overestimate rather than not have enough. A lot of the advice she shared with her clients is the same advice she's using to plan her own wedding in October.
No matter what happens, whether the design comes out like you want it to or everything plays out exactly as you want it to, what really matters is we're going to be married at the end of the day and we get to start a life together, and so that's really what you should focus on.
Proving you can still pick the tune of your wedding bells. In Bryan, Rachel Espaillat, KRHD News.
When we come back, America in Afghanistan. Our Joe St. George takes a look back at the war and what our country has sacrificed over the last 20 years. Tonight we look back at the war in Afghanistan. Some veterans expressing concerns for women's rights in the country as the Taliban continues to make gains. This as President Biden has pledged to pull all troops out by August 31st. Our Joe St. George spoke with veterans about America in Afghanistan.
We did not go to Afghanistan to nation build.
President Biden isn't changing his mind. The president said earlier this year that all American troops will be out of Afghanistan by September 11th of this year. And this week, he said that will happen by the end of August. But as America's longest war comes to an end, it's worth remembering what America has sacrificed. As a reminder, the attacks of September 11, 2001 prompted the war in Afghanistan because Al-Qaeda, the group behind the terrorist attack, worked with the Taliban to use the country as a base of operations. Since that time, 2,448 Americans have died in the country, according to the president. 20,722 Americans have been wounded. The United Nations estimates at least 35,000 Afghan civilians have been killed between 2001 and 2019. American taxpayers have paid at least $825 billion for operations. Recent expenses have totaled around $3 billion a month.
The big question here in Washington and around the world is what happens next in Afghanistan. The big fear? The Taliban will quickly regain control.
And that is especially concerning for many of America's veterans because the Taliban is who they fought against. The Council on Foreign Relations in the spring reported all of those dark red regions are areas the Taliban had taken back control. And in recent days, the Taliban has claimed victory in even more areas.
Back in 2007, I deployed to Afghanistan.
Rob Couture served in Afghanistan as a master sergeant.
My mom was in Afghanistan in 2014, and she was, always stressed out because they were always under attack.
Toya Tucker is an Air Force veteran whose mother and ex-husband both served in Afghanistan. All are concerned about what's next, especially when it comes to women's rights if the Taliban takes back power. Under Taliban rule, they say everything from wearing high heels to even reading was previously illegal for women.
It's a concern. I remember being in Afghanistan and seeing little girls that were sick in the village. And, as a father that had 3 daughters myself, I wasn't allowed to, pick her up and comfort her.
The Taliban right now is terrorizing those citizens, right now. So, no, I don't think it will get better for women.
That being said, both veterans recognize why President Biden is ending the war. The men responsible for 9/11 have long been either killed or detained.
You got mixed feelings. 20 years is a long time.
Afghanistan is a sovereign nation.
In Washington, I'm Joe St. George.
Well, we had some rain across the Brazos Valley today. Some of those tropical downpours greeted you earlier this morning. Now things are drying out just a little bit, but you can see where the heaviest rainfall fell earlier today, about 2 to 3 inches recorded across parts of eastern Lee County, back over to western Burleson County, and then up into Milam County, eventually up towards the Temple area. Another bullseye down there towards Milliken just north of Navasota. So still some heavy rains that fell, and that really kept those temperatures down. We're in the 70s and 80s this afternoon. Now, although things look to be a little drier on radar, we are tracking a few showers out there towards Crockett, Massillville, Huntsville, but nothing showing up on Bryan College Station at this time. Doesn't mean we won't see it tonight. Our low pressure is still chilling over there towards San Antonio. As that lifts up to the north, we should keep the rain chances going through the overnight hours. Now, I think it'll be lower rain chances than what we saw this morning, but about a 20% chance of rain through the evening, and then on into Saturday, we'll still keep the potential for some isolated showers. This evening, though, temperatures hang around the 70s. Not going to feel like July at all. It will stay muggy, so keep that in mind if you're heading out to any sort of plans later on tonight, maybe going out on the town. Future Track shows you those clouds will be hanging around overnight. We may see a few morning showers, and then as we head into the afternoon, I'm not going to rule out a pop-up shower or thunderstorm, or a few of them, in fact. I think will be around a 20 to 30% chance of rain for your Saturday. Rain chances ramp back up, though, heading into Sunday. You saw that complex of storms that may be working in by Sunday evening. I think our best chance of rain will be Sunday evening into Monday, and then things will start drying out in a big way. Wait till you see the 10-day forecast in a second. Tonight, down to the lower 70s, 73 in Bryan College Station. Tomorrow, upper 80s, lower 90s. I think we'll be pretty close to 90 degrees pretty much area-wide. Keep in mind, it's going to be humid, so it'll feel like 95 out there with south breezes around 15 miles per hour. Sunday, 91, a 20% chance of rain. Better chances overnight into Monday. Monday, 40% chance of rain. We'll have a few chances of rain Tuesday and Wednesday. Then look at those drier conditions working in for the second half of the week with temperatures going back to normal.
The news feed starts with customers and even a senator unhappy with Wells Fargo. The bank says money is no longer available to customers who use personal lines of credit. Now, people could borrow up to $100,000 for things like home repairs or credit card debt. And now Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren's upset because the bank said this change could impact credit scores. Toyota will no longer give money to lawmakers who resisted certifying the 2020 election results. The Japanese car maker's been criticized for its financial contributions. Now the company says it's committed to supporting democracy. GoodRx is teaming up with DoorDash. Now, GoodRx does help you save money on prescription meds, and Dashers can sign up for the company's gold subscription for better rates on more than 1,000 drugs, as well as free mail delivery. An analysis from Reuters is showing how much retail employees could benefit from being in a union. In 2019, unionized workers took home an average of $730 a week. That is compared to $670 for those who were not in a union. In 2013, the pay difference was only about $20. This analysis does challenge a claim that Amazon made to its workers in Alabama who are trying to form a union that their benefits could be harmed if a union bargained on their behalf. Testifying virtually has been an option for public legislatures across the country in the pandemic, but now there's a push to make this permanent. Connecticut's believed to be the first state to consider doing this long term, especially for nursing home residents. Lawmakers say they saw the impact that this could have earlier in the pandemic with COVID cases and deaths surging in nursing homes.
Having people testify themselves remotely changed the policy. And I don't know that we would have gotten that without people themselves advocating for what it was like and what they needed.
Connecticut State Rep Ann Hughes sees what nursing home residents have been dealing with firsthand because she's a social worker in a nursing home, but she says that other people don't see it.
It was like being on somebody's doorstep, right? It was like us going to them rather than, and usually we don't get impacted people themselves at the Capitol testifying and offering public, they might offer written testimony, but we often get the advocates, the paid lobbyists.
Having the opportunity for people to see that a nursing home resident, I think in people's heads, they think of a much older adult who maybe doesn't have the capacity to explain how things impact them or have a meaningful voice. And that's really not who we're representing.
MAIREAD Painter advises lawmakers as the state's long-term ombudsman, but she sees value in nursing residents being able to advocate for themselves.
I can represent what they tell me and why we want to see change and how it'll impact the long-term care system. But when people have the opportunity to share their own story in their own words, I think that's when you really start to see meaningful change.
She says family members can also have barriers traveling to the Capitol to testify, so the change would benefit them as well. Representative Hughes says testifying in person, it can also be intimidating, so a virtual option where people can choose to turn their camera on or off can make people feel more comfortable. The champion of this year's Scripps National Spelling Bee has made history, and now she says she hopes that her win will inspire other young black people in the U.S. to excel at spelling. Maya Rodriguez introduces us to the 14-year-old who also has 3 Guinness World Records for her basketball skills.
The students flew in from all over the country and even the Bahamas for the chance to be crowned the Scripps National Spelling Bee champion. But in the end, there could only be one winner.
MURRAYA.
That is correct.
History made as ZAILA AVANT-GARDE of Harvey, Louisiana became the first African-American winner of the Scripps National Spelling Bee in its nearly 100-year history.
2021 Scripps National Spelling Bee champion.
The winning word? MAIREAD, which is a group of plants in the citrus family. The spelling of the word prompted ZAILA to think about the last name of one famous actor.
Bill Murray's face. I just got them at MAIREAD and I just thought of his face and it was so funny to me.
The top 11 spellers gathered in Florida near Disney World for the 2-hour final, which included new competition rules to ensure there would be no ties and only one champion. And that champion has plans of her own for the future.
Probably working towards becoming playing at Harvard and then working on maybe going into NASA or something like that.
And the best part?
Right where I got the trophy.
If there had been a tie, we would have had a spell-off this year. That was one of the new rules that was instituted for the bee in 2021, but we didn't need one this year. Then again, there's always next year. In Kissimmee, Florida, I'm Maya Rodriguez.
Great stuff, Maya. Thank you. And in addition to the Scripps Championship Cup, she received a $50,000 cash prize from Scripps, along with the cash prizes from Merriam-Webster Dictionary Company and Encyclopedia Britannica. Months after hospitals were supposed to start sharing their prices with all of us, that still isn't happening in many cases. We are taking a look into what's behind this holdup. The Champlain Towers tragedy in Surfside, Florida has put attention on the safety of high-rises. We wondered what rules are in place to make sure buildings stay structurally sound, and our investigative team has been looking at building codes across the country. Patrick Terpstra tells us it's rare for cities to require re-inspections of tall buildings.
Before disaster, Champlain Towers was in the middle of addressing issues identified in a structural safety review. It's an unusually strict requirement in South Florida for high-rises 40 years old. Kit Miyamoto runs a global building engineering firm.
They recognize that so-called maintenance issue exists in the Miami area, I believe, and also that obviously right next to the ocean.
Our review of building codes in 7 big cities shows the norm is to require checking structural integrity only when a tower is new. After that, cities do different things. We found a lot of places with skyscrapers call for regular checkups of exteriors, where things might fall off and hurt someone below. Definitions of a high-rise and how often re-inspection should occur vary. Every 5 years in Boston, up to every 12 years in Chicago. Seattle recertifies towers only after damage from something like an earthquake. Houston says you have to inspect apartment buildings every 4 years, but not condominiums unless someone makes a complaint. The International Code Council develops model building codes. Currently, those guidelines don't say anything about whether a high-rise should be re-inspected, only that they should be maintained and stay structurally sound. That may soon change.
We're going to have to be more diligent, I think, in the future.
Dominic Sims is CEO of the Code Council. The group will go over findings from investigators at the rubble and will meet in August to discuss next steps.
We're going to want to hear from the experts, local code officials like you've talked to, engineers.
Sims says there is a very strong likelihood the council will adopt new guidelines for routine re-inspections, at least for areas in the bullseye of climate change, where sea level rise and stronger storms have been a growing concern.
The forces that are acting on buildings are changing.
But Miyamoto says regularly recertifying high-rises everywhere would be an overreaction.
This is a really rare event.
But without routine re-inspections, it's up to condo owners in a lot of cases to detect trouble themselves and agree to pay for costly fixes. While we don't know what brought down part of Champlain Towers, we do know owners have been grappling with repairs an engineer warned would be extremely expensive.
There was leaks in the garage, there was cracks on the balconies. So yes, you need the money to fix it.
After the tragedy in Surfside, Sim says people will expect tougher building codes.
Just the mere fact that it did fall, and in the U.S., that's not something that I think the public will accept.
I'm Patrick Terpstra reporting.
Patrick, thank you. And the news feed now starts with an American athlete headed to the Olympics unvaccinated. Michael Andrews is a U.S. swimmer, and he said he didn't want the COVID vaccine to interfere with his training schedule. This week, the Olympics said no fans will be allowed at the games. Japan's currently in a COVID state of emergency. Some good news for a cherished animal across the world. China's giant panda is no longer endangered. After decades of conservation efforts, there are now 1,800 pandas, so their status is listed as vulnerable. Pope Francis is not letting surgery recovery stop him from giving his Sunday blessing. He will do it this weekend from the hospital. The Pope had half of his colon removed. He is expected to be in the hospital through the rest of the week. mRNA technology was new for the COVID vaccines, and now it could transform our flu shots in the future as well. Why researchers say using this technology in those shots could mean better protection against the flu.
Well, 8 Aggies are headed to the Summer Olympics in Tokyo. One of them met with fans today in College Station. KRHD reporter Rebecca Fiedler introduces us to Bryce Deadman and his fans.
In just 2 weeks, this Texas A&M track star will head to Japan to compete for Team USA in the 4x400 relay. Friday afternoon, Bryce Deadman took several hours to sign autographs for and take pictures with his fans.
Not only because he's Team USA, but also being an Aggie. I think it's a lot of fun. Gives people a lot of reason to watch.
I can't wait to see him run and watch him do his best because he's an amazing guy.
Deadman said this was his first time meeting his supporters, greeting visitors to Orange Theory Fitness in College Station. But he greeted each person with a smile and offered words of encouragement and inspiration.
I would want to inspire people to be themselves all the time, trust and believe in themselves, because like I told you, there was so many times along this journey where I was about to quit, and I'm glad I didn't.
It's now time for sports. Joining us is WTAW's Zach Taylor with our Sportscast.
Hey KRHD viewers, Calvert High School head football coach and athletics director Jamarcus Ashley has announced he's stepping down after 3 seasons. Ashley, a Calvert alum, led the Trojans to a 25-10 overall record and 3 straight playoff berths, including an appearance in the Class A regional finals last year. The Brazos Valley Bombers return to the Diamond this evening as they pay a visit to the Amarillo Sod Squad. First pitch is at 7:05. Meanwhile, in the big leagues, the Houston Astros saw their 6-game win streak come to an end yesterday, falling to the Oakland Athletics 2-1. They'll look to start a new streak this evening when they welcome the New York Yankees to town at 7:10. Up in Arlington, the Texas Rangers return from an off day to host Oakland this evening at Globe Life Field. Things get underway for that one at 7:05 in Arlington. It'll be Novak Djokovic and Matteo Berrettini in the Wimbledon men's finals. Now it'll mark the 30th Grand Slam final for Djokovic and the first for Berrettini, who also becomes the first Italian man ever to advance to the title match at the All England Club. And the Phoenix Suns now own a 2-0 lead in the NBA's finals following a 118-108 win over the Milwaukee Bucks last night. From the WTAW Sports Studio, I'm Zach Taylor.
Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, is out with new guidance discouraging detention of women who are known to be pregnant or who are nursing. The policy makes an exception for cases in which the individual is already detained and release is prohibited. The new guidance comes on the heels of other changes in recent months related to immigration enforcement. And as the summer wears on, it's getting harder and harder for pool owners to keep their water crystal clear. That's because a national chlorine shortage has rocked retailers nationwide. And it's not just small pools that are coming up dry. Larger operations like public pools have looked elsewhere for cleaning products. One aquatics expert says he's seen large operations turn to chlorine tablets traditionally used for residential pools.
If they're set up for liquid and they can't get liquid, it's very difficult to say, let me switch overnight to tablets, because you're talking about a 100,000 gallon pool that has to have feeders over in the system.
And keeping up with the demand after more people put in pools during the pandemic is also an issue. 1 gallon of liquid chlorine equals 1 pound of tablets. Experts saying the shortage is a fluid situation for pool owners, large and small, across the U.S. Well, check out what a line of thunderstorms did to one New York City subway station early Thursday. Several stations were flooded by gushing rain, disrupting service. The Metropolitan Transportation Authority had to ban travel on some bridges and tunnels early this morning. Even though Tropical Storm Elsa is in the area, this was actually caused by a different line of slow-moving thunderstorms.
Good evening. Thanks for staying with us here on KRHD. We're tracking showers and thunderstorms that were around the Brazos Valley earlier today. Actually dropped some heavier rain totals over some of our western counties. Cameron, Rockdale, Caldwell, Somerville picking up close to 2 to 3 inches. Another bullseye south of us towards Anderson and Navasota. Upper 70s, lower 80s is what we're left with thanks to all the rainfall that's been in place. Although we are trying to thin out the clouds a little bit, I still think we'll keep a shower or two going through the evening hours. The best chance is going to be east of Highway 6. That's where you're seeing those showers currently towards Huntsville, Madisonville, and Centerville. More showers sitting to our south. This is tropical rainfall down here towards San Antonio, and that system will be lifting north up I-35. So through the overnight hours, we'll actually keep those rain chances around, though I think the first part of your evening will be spent on the drier side. Clouds will be around, though, and it will be damp. Temperatures are going to be in the upper 70s, so keep that in mind if you are heading out on the town this evening. You can see those showers trying to hang around through the overnight hours. May see a few in the morning. I think we'll get a break during the day on Saturday, but in the afternoon could see a stray shower, thunderstorm, maybe 2 or 3 of them across the area. We'll call it a 20 to 30% chance, and then chances go back up on into Sunday as a little complex of storms may approach us from the north by the time we head into the evening. Best rain chance could be Sunday night into Monday. Lower 70s tonight. Tomorrow will be close to 90 degrees. And as you look at that 10-day forecast, we're talking about temperatures in the low 90s through Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Best rain chance Monday, but then we start to taper them off Tuesday and Wednesday. And I'm tracking a few dry days with temperatures back near normal as we end the week.
The FDA is setting new prescribing rules for the controversial Alzheimer's drug that it recently approved. The agency says that Aduhelm is meant for patients with mild or early stage Alzheimer's. It emphasizes that the drug has not been studied on more severe cases. This is an update from the FDA's original prescribing instructions, which said the drug was approved to treat Alzheimer's in general. General Motors is recalling more than 400,000 pickup trucks for exploding side airbags. The company says it can happen without warning and spew parts inside the car. Now, this is for the 2015 and 16 Chevy and GMC Sierra models that you see right here on your screen. In reported cases, no one has been inside the trucks or has gotten hurt. GM will send out letters to notify owners. Fuel is a big polluter of the environment, and the aviation industry uses a lot of it. So on Monday, we'll talk about how scientists and engineers have discovered that they can turn plastic into jet fuel components in just 1 hour. But still to come today, summer school classes across the country right now have nothing to do with math or science.
You can't necessarily educate a student if they're not in the mental state to learn anything.
How educators are helping kids work through the anxiety and struggles with relationships they're feeling because of the pandemic. President Biden is reinstating and expanding on an Obama-era immigration rule. Most pregnant, nursing, and postpartum women will no longer be detained for deportation. This only applied to women who were pregnant under the Obama administration. The policy adds a growing list of deportation exemptions, as Biden says he wants a more humane approach to immigration. And as vaccinations increase, America continues to get back to normal life. But communities along our northern border feel stuck as the border with Canada remains closed until at least July 21st. Vanessa Mishanya shows us the impact as towns have been cut off not only from their neighbors, but from billions of dollars from tourism.
Tucked away in the upper corner of Vermont, a trio of counties creates a secluded outdoor utopia. What Essex, Caledonia, and Orleans counties may lack in human population, they make up for in beauty so remarkable. Together, they have garnered a royal name, the Northeast Kingdom.
It's like living in a Norman Rockwell painting.
It's why Johnny Lottie came to the Northeast Kingdom town of East Burke with his wife and opened up Cafe Lottie 5 years ago. Not just because it had the visual appeal of a Rockwell, but the character too.
It's a community like I've never seen before. Literally a step back in time, and just one guy helps another guy.
But as Vermont has now fully opened up, the Northeast Kingdom remains disconnected from one of its greatest financial feeders, Canada, specifically the country's French-speaking Quebec province.
Between 50 and 60% of your business is gone. That's a pretty big thing.
Canada is so close to the area that the borderline runs right through some residents' backyards. Not just a stone's throw, but a handshake away. For 16 months, Canadians, friends and tourists alike, have not been able to visit.
Hospitality-wise, we've taken the hits.
Hits that have cost the area millions, says Darcy McCann, the director of the local Chamber of Commerce. According to U.S. Census data, the 3 counties that make up the kingdom round out the bottom of Vermont's per capita income. What keeps the area running financially is tourism and recreation, and a great portion of that comes from Canadians.
I would probably estimate it between $40 and $50 million. In the scope of 16 months and in the months that it's going to take to recover, I think it's pretty accurate.
It's a story that is not unique to this part of Vermont. Border communities from Maine to Michigan to Washington state are hurting right now by the billions. According to the U.S. Travel Association, every month the border with Canada is closed, the United States loses another $1.5 billion. Though the answer to the question of when the border will reopen is murky, there has been a bright spot. The Northeast Kingdom has seen a rise in folks from bigger cities after learning that they can work from home, moving to the area.
That's been one of the really positive aspects of this, is that we need people to move to the state, to add to the economy and be part of our community, and they're doing it.
That, plus the helping spirit of those already there, keeps business owners like Johnny optimistic.
We just have to kind of band together, do what's best for the community, and roll that way.
Hoping the kingdom's incredible beauty will continue to be the resource that sustains it. In East Burke, Vermont, I'm Vanessa Mishanya reporting.
The technology used in 2 of the COVID vaccines is working so well, researchers are now looking into using the technology for the flu vaccine. Moderna's announced that it started testing mRNA in a seasonal flu shot. Research into mRNA vaccines has been going on for more than a decade, but it wasn't until the coronavirus pandemic that the technology was actually used. Researchers say the technology is perfect for coronavirus because the virus moves quickly and mRNA can quickly be adapted to changes.
So, for instance, the idea of boosters or variants, you can easily make the slightly different mRNA that would make the variant protein, and then you can move forward and test that for safety.
Now, when it comes to the flu, the yearly vaccine can vary in efficacy. The CDC says flu shots can be 40 to 60% effective. Compare that to Moderna and Pfizer's COVID shots that are about 94% effective. The flu shots are different each year and use the same technology that's been used for nearly 100 years. They vary in efficacy because scientists have to guess what the dominant strain will be and then design the vaccine with that prediction in mind.
The changes with flu can happen quickly, and if they change too much, people don't have immunity and it spreads quickly. The mRNA approach could adapt to that very quickly.
mRNA would give researchers the chance to develop the vaccine closer to flu season. Then they can simply swap out parts of the vaccine makeup. Researchers say that mRNA isn't something that can be used to fight all viruses. They have tried using mRNA to develop an HIV vaccine, but in that case, the virus changed too quickly. From anxiety to depression, kids are still struggling to emerge from the pandemic. Chris Conti shows us the special summer classes many schools are holding to help address lingering mental health issues.
In classrooms and in schools across the country, there is no telling how much learning kids have missed out on because of the pandemic. But for Kate Martin and Tafadzwa Musakiwa, their classes this summer have nothing to do with math or science.
The biggest thing that a lot of schools are making a push for is that you can't necessarily educate a student if they're not in the mental state to learn anything.
I've heard the word mental health be said more times than I ever thought.
Tafadzwa and Kate are both counselors at Londonderry High School in New Hampshire. Classes let out weeks ago, but some kids are still here. It's not summer school, more like summer camp. The goal is to help kids who've struggled to emerge from the pandemic.
I think especially a lot of our kids feel a sense of a loss of control, and they don't feel like they know what's happening and what's going on around them.
Making friends is one of the biggest things they're working on here. Parents and teachers nationwide are realizing that kids are dealing with a lot of anxiety when it comes to relationships because they lost so much social time last year.
A lot of our kids were saying, I don't know how to make friends anymore, like it's hard, I don't get it.
Sometimes finding solutions is as simple as having students write down ideas to help with self-care. They scribble words like crying, writing poems, and are even making vision boards for the future.
Talking about friendships, we're talking about boundaries, doing some self-care, some meditation, some yoga, those team building skills that they might not have had for the last 14 months.
School districts across the country are running similar programs, and for good reason. During the pandemic, parents with children ages 5 to 12 reported seeing their kids had elevated symptoms of depression, anxiety, and experienced overall worsening emotional health.
It's been rough for the last 15 or 16 months.
Dr. EILEEN Kennedy Moore is a child psychologist. She's seen lingering mental health issues with kids of all ages.
The strain, the strangeness, the uncertainty, and the isolation have really taken a toll on kids and on families.
Much like what the summer program at Londonderry High School is trying to accomplish, there is one thing she says parents should focus on this summer.
If you want to know the number one thing to help your kid feel better about going back to school, help them make friends.
The question is what's next? Like, what do we do with that? Because we've never been in a global pandemic. We've never had the fallout of one. Now what?
At this school, a lesson in navigating life after the pandemic, even if it means staying after class. In Londonderry, New Hampshire, I'm Chris Conti.
Thanks for joining us for KRHD News at 6. Be sure to tune in to our next broadcast